And there are books that I would be willing to pay $50 for. Show up and take it or leave it.
I've got one question to ask you before we close this out. And it's been bugging me. I've mentioned, I think I heard it from you. I've mentioned that for our history, and it's completely off topic from everything, that there is a direct correlation between the lack of vegetables in our diet because since we've stopped cooking over fire and using the coals. Is there anything that you read about that?
Yeah, there's a fellow that came on the people say, how come at a certain point with the prevalence of cancer, the prevalence of cancer was not, so in our modern day situation, the incidence of cancer is very high. And the guy said, well, you see, in the old days, there was a point at which all the cooking was done with wood. And the ashes from the wood stove went onto the garden. Then at a certain point, electricity came into being, and as a result, you weren't generating the ash. And it's the ashes that were put in the garden that ended up, the nutrients ended up coming back to you through and potatoes and what grew in your garden. And it seems like the essentials for your garden, you begin to deplete the useful essentials that humans need by not refreshing the soil with the ash from your wood stove. Okay. So it isn't as much what ash got in cooking over an open fire. It's the consequence of what to do with the ashes when they're left over. And if you have a garden plot, then the simplest thing is to spread the ashes. And that's... when you ponder on the incidence of cancer, I would say more and more literature is saying that a lot of the prevalence is got a lot to do with the quality of your nutrition. Mm-hmm. So if you're, as a matter of fact, just the other day I ran across a little snippet of information that, one of the commonest things is to use animal manure. Generally, to go through the process of composting the manure. The composting process will eliminate E. coli, for example. Mm. Now, if you put on liquid manure without the process, the chances of E. coli getting in the soil. When you grow your lettuce, the E. coli is actually absorbed by the lettuce itself. Mm. So washing doesn't do much. You're eating the lettuce, and if it had E. coli in the fertilizer you're using, it's incorporated by the plant. So here you get the E. coli poisoning just by eating the lettuce. And when you would have thought that if you washed it thoroughly, that doesn't help. You're going to get it as it's within the body of the lettuce.
All right, Morris, we're going to close this up. Any closing statement that you want to give everybody before we shut this off?
Closing statement?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I have a little fun with this.
All right.
This I wrote up in a book we call the Grand Syllabus, which is the outline, the the syllabus of training that a first-class survival instructor says, enjoy your wealth. Well, that means you might not appreciate how well-to-do you are to be able to enjoy it. Do not die in good health. Well, if you're speeding, here you're a very healthy person because you're so stupid that you hit a tree and you're dead. Why should you die when you're a healthy person? Life may be short, death is sure. And you realize death is sure because any living person eventually will die. So do something about it before you do die. When ignorance and stupidity are the cause, sound knowledge is the cure. And actually, that little saying, I corrupted it. It said, life may be short, death is sure. When ignorance and stupidity are the cause, Jesus Christ is the cure. So that's where it came from this. I happen to always even find that if I neglected religious, I ran across this one blurb and I thought, some of us might say that we could take that. So that's where it sort of came from. And it's just like people will say, well, what's your motto? Your motto is the more you know, the less you carry.
Absolutely.
And so on. But anyway, with that, you find that it's a good hobby. It's probably very useful. It should be part of our educational system, so when our kids graduate from grade 12, that they pretty well can know what to do should the roof gets blown off your house. And should you find that there's an earthquake, you know enough to be able to do the things that will help you survive. In Italy, there was this one episode of a very bad earthquake, and they marveled how many people survived that earthquake, but they began dying like flies a month later because they didn't know how to replace their home, to know how to build a super shelter. And, there's Engineers Without Borders. There's a section, if you know, where you can mine the internet, and they can't seem to get away from the wall tent, whereas the super shelter would be such a inexpensive approach. So there's the wall tent, and then there's people that come up with ATCO trailers.
Yeah.
You can imagine the construction is hauled. So every family of four needs a $5,000 ATCO trailer instead of a $400 super shelter, which might even keep you more comfortable because you're imitating an igloo in every respect. And me and Don Cavellis are working on the issue that between his cooking device and between the super shelter, then and refugees would fare a lot better. But anyway, that's another story.
All right, Morris. Well, thanks a lot for your time, and see you on the next one.